This is the 1990 Flash. We're doing the Flash.
Yay!
Central City used to be a peaceful place. Now, something dark and terrifying is erupting from the city's core.
I thought you were upstairs. What do you think you are doing?
Central City is crumbling. Its people live in fear. And they will watch as we destroy their hero cops one by one.
Cross-reference against a sample from that gun shop they hit on Tuesday.
Barry Allen is a scientist, not a hero. But when lightning strikes, it transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Heart rate is accelerating. Muscle tissue expanding. You're holding at 200 miles per hour. 300.
347 miles an hour.
That was before the equipment crashed.
What's happening to me?
While the city goes crazy, so does Barry's metabolism.
I can't believe it was over so quickly. After all that anticipation, why bother?
20 bucks for a fight that's over in 2 rounds.
The question is, which will blow up first?
No more games. I want you to build a hood. Cover my face so no one will know who I am. You know that insignia they all wear on their backs? Well, I've got one of my own.
About to experience trash cinema.
To another episode of the Trash Tapes. When one man's trash is another man's treasure. I'm your host, Johann Chipol, and the inflictor of pain. And join me, as usual, as my victim and DJ, Edward Harvey. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've had a week off, which is weird when actually we're in a situation where, you know, the world's on fire, so you can't really do much in a week.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, even if you're working, it kind of feels like a week off, doesn't it? But like a bad week off, because you still got to do other stuff like work from home, but you're kind of like off. It's weird.
Oh, tell me. I don't. Sometimes there have been days where I forgot what day it was. It's like, I've got to do stuff. It's like, today is Saturday. What? How do I know? Saturday feels like a Tuesday for me these days.
Yeah. Weekends are meaningless at the moment.
Time is a construct and it's all broken now thanks to COVID. But we're still getting through it. And it's good that what we decided to do this summer, basically, is obviously we start off with a bit of a corker this summer by having the Captain America 1990 watch along, which was that was fun. That was a good one. And I know we suggested it, but I think, you know what, we should totally do it. We are going to be doing the Summer of Superhero Schlock.
Yeah, definitely. I'm well up for that. Just continue, keep that theme going, you know?
Yeah, we're going to basically try and cram in as many bad or famously infamous superhero movies or things as all time and try and cram them in. So that's going to be a whirl. So we're going to move on to the next one. Now, we did Marvel last time.
Yeah.
We might as well do DC. Now, This was something that we were thinking about and talking through, and I said, you know what, we haven't seen this in a while, so let's watch it.
Hi.
Barry, your shoes are on fire.
This is actually a first for us because The Flash isn't technically a movie. It is. We're doing the first ever TV pilot on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I thought of it. I mean, I've never watched the actual series. I remember this was kind of like marketed as a movie back in when I was a kid, because I don't think we had the Flash TV series in the UK. So the TV pilot, because it was feature length, was kind of like advertised in video rental places as just like a movie. And I felt it, I thought it was just a film. I didn't know there was a TV series back then. So I just thought of it, and I still, until recently, and like doing a bit of research and stuff, I thought it was a film for a long time.
But now you know it's actually a pilot episode for the season of The Flash, which I actually remember watching later down the line as a kid. I remember watching it. It was great. It was a goodish show. Like it wasn't as sort of like one of the better shows, but it had some good stuff in it. Like Mark Hamill as being the trickster, which is awesome. But it was a decent show, but they marketed and sold off the idea that they were going to try and sell they were trying to pitch the idea that the pilot episode, which we're going to get a little bit of information about all this, was going to be was sold, like you said, as a big movie event. But it was for television. So it was supposed to be this big television movie event that was going to be The Flash. It's The Flash movie. You liked Batman? Well, we now have The Flash. And it's that kind of marketing. It's kind of aggressive how it was sold that way. Yeah,
and it's got a bit of the feel of like the Batman, hasn't it? I mean, it's got like obviously the composer, Danny Elfman did the music, so that always helps, I think, with get the right composer for a superhero movie, and it'll sound really grand and kind of like that 90s superhero kind of aesthetic, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it had, like to mention, Danny Elfman did do the theme tune, the theme song for The Flash.
Yeah,
and did the composing for the first episode. All the other episodes after that was done by Shirley Walker, but tried to imitate a lot of the Danny Elfman feel to it.
I guess a bit like the Batman animated series. Obviously, he did the theme for that, and then other composers just like emulated his music, didn't they, for the other episodes? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So there we go. Now, so for those who may be thinking, what the hell we're talking about? Well, in 1990, there was a TV series of The Flash, which must have fallen under the radar, must not have been as popular as people thought, because you didn't even know this was a TV series until very recently. So we're going to have a look into that. So The Flash was an American TV series developed by the writing team of Danny Bilzman and Paul DeMeo that was aired on CBS on September 20th, 1990 till May 1991. It was based on the DC comic book character of Barry Allen, aka The Flash, a costume superhero crime fighter with the power to move at superhuman speeds.
Yeah.
Now, one of the biggest selling points that you had for me to rewatch this is the fact that the Flash is played by John Wesley Shipp, which you said it's the dad from Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, it's Mitch Leary, Dawson's dad. He's such a stud. He's like a typical Gillette model kind of dad, isn't he? But
the thing is, looking back at this, because it's been a long time since the TV series. John Wesley Shipp, back in his heyday, was a handsome man.
Definitely, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, he's got the proper thick square jaw, hasn't he? And he's just he's a man you want to be saved by, isn't he? We're watching Dawson's Creek at the moment, going through Dawson's Creek on Channel 4, all four, the on demand type of thing. And so I'm seeing a lot of old John Wesley Shipp at the moment. He's not in it as much as you'd think, but because he's not the main character. Yeah. But yeah, he's a friendly face to me. And
now you've got to watch him again in the pilot episode and just saying, oh, look at that. There you go. That's the thing. The idea for this episode was predominantly you saying we're going to The Flash because it stars the guy from Dawson's Creek.
And also because I own it on VHS, and you've got gold little things like this at the start.
This film has been classified PG. That stands for parental guidance, which means that parents might want to check up on it before showing it to their younger children.
So British.
If it's an action film, it might have some violence. If it's romantic, it might have some sexy scenes or very
sexy scenes.
It might also have some of the milder swear words.
Yeah.
I love that British broadcaster type voice. So you don't get like voiceover like that anymore.
You don't. And that's the interesting
it
thing
might
about
contain
that.
some sexy scenes.
I like somebody needs to elaborate what sexy scenes are entirely, because there's different levels of sexy. In this episode, there was probably one sexy scene. It wasn't really a sex scene. It was just like them cuddling afterwards in bed, wasn't it? Which,
yeah, it had a really... I mean, I've got a clip of that, but I'll play it when we get to it. It's got a really bad kind of like gag.
Let's just go very quickly the summary of the entire show, but realistically, we're going to go for we're only going to be talking about the pilot. We're not doing the whole. Jesus, the entire thing would take us days.
Yeah.
So, because each episode, I believe, was about a 30 to 45 minute episode.
Yeah.
So, imagine watching all 22 episodes of that. Would have been exhausting. So, Barry Allen, who in this version, I believe, is a forensic scientist working for the Central City Police, is struck by lightning and dosed in chemicals in his lab. He soon develops super speed and creates a superhero identity to fight crime known as the Flash. A research scientist called Tina it's called Tina McGee. McGee.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
McGee. Ugh. I'm sorry, I hate the McGee. Sounds like it's a terrible way. I can't pronounce it properly. It sounds gross. Tina McGee works in Star Labs and helps Barry fight crime while trying to understand how his powers are developing, which also later on sort of feels like it's going to be a love interest, but we'll explain that in a minute. Barry tries to then maintain his private life and while still trying to keep his superhero identity from his colleagues, his boss, Lieutenant Garfield, and his best friend, Julio Mendez, who's, again, like just to sort of say here, a lot of recognizable faces here. Like Julio Mendez is played by Alex Desert, and he's recognizable. You've seen him in a lot of stuff. Same with like Amanda Pays and a whole bunch of different people. They're all kind of, there's no people you haven't seen before in like the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah, definitely familiar, yeah.
But the weird thing about all this is the production and what they've tried to do with it. Now, development of the series began in 1988 when Warner Brothers tried to develop a TV series based, trying to develop things on the DC comic characters. Danny and Paul then conceived to feature several superheroes. He wanted to do sort of like a Justice League idea at the beginning.
Yeah.
They want to try. They wanted to jump the ship and say, you know what, you don't need to know everyone. Everyone knows Superman, Wonder Woman, all that. Let's make the Justice League now. But they weren't too hot about it. But they did say that the moment they found out how Batman 1989 did was such a huge success, they decided to say, you know what, we'll focus on one, but we want to keep it in the similar mood as that. And that's when The Flash was announced. They wrote the pilot, which was completed in 1990. They filmed the pilot of this episode in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And the final 6 whole weeks, and the final effects for the pilot were completed a week before it was aired.
God.
Wow. It was kind of tight.
Really quick turnaround then, yeah.
Humongously so. So they had everything filmed between May and June, and then by just a week before the launch in September, it was done. Bilson actually then said that there were 125 special effects in the pilot episode alone. And it was done on a grand scale, but always felt that even then they could have done more with it. This is one thing that kind of surprised me. The 2 hour long pilot episode. Do you know how much that episode alone, cost?
I don't know, a few million. Like it looked like it was really, really like high production value for a TV movie. Anyway,
it was. $6 million to make the first episode, and then every other episode after that cost about $1.7 million to make.
Wow!
This was at the time in 1990 the most expensive TV show ever made. Now things have trumped it, like things like Lost and things like Game of Thrones have trumped all this. But at the time, $6 million for the pilot episode, and then $1.6 million per episode after that. This was costing Warner Brothers a lot of money.
Yeah, a bit higher production value than the Lois and Clark then.
Hell yeah! Wow, Lois and Clark.
Or that was also known as The New Adventures of Superman. So it was like known as that over here. Like in the US, it was always Lois and Clark, wasn't it?
Yeah, but here's a weird thing about that one, is because that series aimed at not really Superman, wasn't it? It felt like it was very weird how a show about Superman felt very much like it had not a lot to do with Superman.
You got the legendary Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher in that one.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
I loved those guys at the time, but I bet if you watch an episode of it now, I bet it'd be so cringe. I bet it'd be like 290s.
It's almost very similar to how I feel when I watch Charmed. Yeah. Where it's the same thing. I watch Charmed and go like, oh, that is very late 90s, early noughties, isn't it? What is this? I'm having nightmares.
Right.
What do you think of the costume? Before we go into anything else, obviously the Flash is famous for his red costume and lightning bolt. What do you think of the costume? I
still like it. I mean, I really loved it at the time. And I still like it now. I mean, it's the thing is, the Flash costume, you can only really sort of do it in a certain way. It's kind of got to have a certain look. But I love, like, it's got this weird kind of, like, texture to it. So it almost looks like it's like a suede or something. It's like a really odd kind of texture. But it looks really cool. And it's definitely got looks like it's got a bit of an influence from the Batman 89 one, but I don't know whether that's true. I might just be...
Well, actually, there is. According to this, there were 4 Flash costumes made for the series, right? So 4 of them. Each one cost $100,000, right? Expensive suit. On the suit, the writers actually said that John had to have an entire body cast. So just imagine him imagine him like in a pool, just lying down. Right, we're just gonna mold this to you, right? The suit was made out of latex. The suit was made out of latex, but it was it was quite difficult to process how getting it right. And he actually did say that the suit was critical. You cannot, after Batman, have just a guy running around in tights.
No, definitely not.
So that's actually his words after that. So
I mean, the Flash, you expect him to be a bit more kind of like athletic looking, but Wesley Shipp's like really buff, isn't he? He's like really, he was really sort of ripped and buff in this movie. So the suit he looks so muscular in it, doesn't he?
He how can I describe this nicely? He's a bit of a human triangle. He's got such broad shoulders. It's just bulging. There's no way he can be like slim and athletic like the other versions of the Flash have come up afterwards. This big guy, right? The Flash costume was designed and created by Robert Short and built in the studios. The Short said that the latex suits were specifically treated to disguise their rubber surfaces, hence the extra muscles and so on. So it would look like stretched under like a unitard.
Yeah.
Right? And Shipp wore watercolored undergarments to combat the heat of the suit. So this one was actually more practical than the Batman suit, which, you know, I'm not going to lie, Tim Burton's Batman suit, Batman can't even turn his head, right?
Yeah, especially the version in the first film. It's like when Michael Keaton has to turn abruptly, he kind of has to turn his whole body, doesn't he? And it makes for some like awkward action scenes, but like... I mean, they changed it obviously for Batman Returns, but like, yeah.
Right. He also then said that Bob Miller also said that everyone else in the costume department, realistically, they wanted everyone to be as comfortable as possible, including Amanda Pays, which he says, and I quote, "Unaggressive clothing" is how they described her costume, which is okay. Though she is an aggressive career woman, she is wearing unaggressive clothing.
Right, okay.
Which, in other words, is basically saying that she wears frumpy outfits, basically.
Yeah. They didn't want to, like, sort of sexualize her or anything.
Barely, because the idea is that she's wearing 1930s, 1940s sort of shirts and slacks and vests, and she is got nothing sexy going on. She's all frumpy.
Which is surprising for the era, because that was a time when they just made, a lot of the time, they just made the female characters just like the sex appeal, and that's it.
When it finally got broadcast, this was what happened. It got, the promotion for this, before getting into it, was insane. The marketing began marketing in July 1990. They started broadcasting it in NBA games, and then they did it all between things like wrestling matches and the Family Channel, as well as linking the TV series with the comic book, etc. And even having 4-minute promos at Six Flags, just full blown on a screen, 4-minute promotion during this time for this particularly just the pilot episode, really promoting that this is a huge television event. Warner Brothers banners were flying all over the place, with all over the coast. It was almost inescapable. With CBS, the vice president of communications, CBS said, "We're not selling it as a comic book. The promos have to have that theatrical feel, and we want the show to have a theatrical feel."
Yeah, so it makes sense of me thinking that it was kind of this big kind of like movie thing, in the UK, even though it wasn't in cinemas. It was advertised quite heavily as a video. A film to rent in the video shop, kind of like, and it was all, it had all those big cardboard cutouts and stuff of the Flash.
Oh, they were huge. Yeah. They were all. You couldn't escape the Flash in 1990, and the first episode did really well in the ratings, right? But the reason why it didn't do very well after that is because it clashed with quite a few things.
Right.
So, for example, it was originally launched on at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, right, on television, on CBS. But it was going against other bigger shows, including The Cosby Show at the time and The Simpsons.
Oh, God, they're huge. They're like absolutely huge shows of that era.
So Fox was having The Simpsons. NBC had The Cosby Show, which nowadays, The Cosby Show... step back from that, oh boy. Terrible.
It's such a shame, because I enjoyed the Cosby Show back in the day. It's just you can't watch it now. You can't enjoy it now, can you? It's probably been erased from everywhere as well. Like you couldn't put it.
I brought it up, so now people are going to be thinking like, now after debuting, right, they saw that they were going to have problems. So the second episode was launched half an hour later, so at 8:30. So people who were not really trained to it, let's say, we're starting at 8. And then going like, okay. And I said, okay, so it's going to be 8 o'clock every week, yeah? No, it was doing 8:30 because they don't want to compete against The Simpsons and The Cosby Show, which was weird at the time because they were still technically hour-long, so you would never put an hour-long show in a half-an-hour situational slot. That makes sense?
Yeah.
They attempted to do that, but then the problem was it was an attempt to fight off against other shows, things like Babes and A Different World and all these kind of American shows. The thing is, that's the problem. This is all American issues, right? Eventually, after a few episodes later, they removed it entirely from Thursday nights and moved it to Saturday nights. But then the problem with that was by that time, because you've moved the show so much, people just stopped watching it, and then it only ended on the first season.
Yeah, you definitely need to. The thing is, I mean, we make like sort of content and stuff like that. We were starting to realize that you kind of have to be consistent. You have to, if you want to do a series, you kind of have to show it the same time each week, same day, and you just have to keep doing that. Otherwise, people are just going to forget when it's on and get frustrated, and it's just like one of those things. So did. Those clashings, did they come later down the line as the series was going on, or was it like right from the first pilot?
From the off.
All right, I suppose
that's the thing though. Even though CBS were really pushing that this is almost like going to the theater, right? They're like, this is like going to the movies, but as a TV show. They were really pushing that in. You like Batman? We got you the Flash. Didn't work. also, they decided to, once all that was done, though, they did decide to launch several episodes, edited together, and launch them on VHS, which was obviously the 2-hour pilot episode. That's the one you saw. There was called The Flash 2, The Revenge of the Trickster, which were the 2 episodes that involved the Trickster, re-edited to make it a 19-minute to 2-hour long movie.
Right. I've not seen that, but I've seen pictures of Mark Hamill in the costume and all like neon colours, all those 90s neon colours. He looks so good.
It's so cheesy camp. I love it. And then you have The Flash 3, The Deadly Nightshade, which was formed by episode encoding Ghost in the Machine and The Deadly Nightshade. So they would try, I think what they try to do there is try to look at it, right, which were our standout episodes. We need to make some money out of this. Let's sell Office VHS. And that's where a lot of people now have probably found out about the Flash TV series, is through those VHS movies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I just watched the first one back in the day, but yeah, that is, I can imagine, I can see why they're doing it. They're trying to like combat the whole errors and it went wrong with it being on TV, weren't they? Like you say, and just well, we got it because if it's costing $1 million each episode, you really got to try and make the money back somewhere, haven't you?
Yeah, they were really, really disappointed because they had huge ideas for season 2, especially being they were going to bring in so many different kinds of villains from the Flash rogue library, because the Flash actually has quite a lot of villains, even if some of them are really goofy, like Reverse Flash and other things like that. But they were going to bring a whole bunch of them in, and they were going to have people from the first season and second season come back, and they were all going to do sort of basically like a Sinister Six, aka kind of a league of bad guys, all just working together to beat the Flash, because they've all just been beaten up by the Flash terribly.
I mean, but like when like the movie kicks off at the beginning, you get like this epic kind of Flash logo with the Danny Elfman music, and it's such a good start, isn't it? It's like this.
Brilliant.
Da, 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 da. It's like
it's
epic.
Such a mood setter. It's such a mood setter.
And the Flash logo kind of like it flashes across the screen. You got like a thunderbolt, and it's just like, and then it goes to the city skyline behind, and kind of at night, and it's got that dark DC vibe, hasn't it? And it's really kind of like sets the tone like really well. Like,
do you know what's good about it? It's like that to me, the show, that episode, and just all the other episodes that followed after, kind of knew that they weren't going to replicate entirely the Tim Burton look of how Gotham was, but they were trying to keep the dark and moody tone of it. So they were doing like interesting neon lighting, or they would just do nice angles of different things and loads of smoke, things like that made it moody. And the opening shots, when you see the chemical factory, you know, the big chemical factory and all that kind of stuff there, and you see that lit by multicolored neon lights, and then down the street when it's quiet, you see I think you see the first shot is, I think, this mother saying, "I told you to stay outside." I love it because as if everybody knows, like, shit's about to go down, and we didn't know. Like, just stuff happens, and then an army of motorcyclists, like. Damn, speaking of motorcyclists, from what I was mentioning before, just this army of people in like Harley Davidsons running in, throwing what looks like they're grenades. That's not a grenade. Yeah.
Did they have like petrol bombs and stuff, or is it just like?
It's just those bright neon green balls that happen to explode on impact.
I suppose because it's like a PG, they can't be too violent, can they? That's the downside. But yeah,
you say that, but in this episode alone, there is a horrifically nasty death. So basically, it turns out that there is an evil motorcycle gang who is taking over Central City and are just, by the sound of things, just bombing things up for the sake of it. Like, there doesn't seem to be a very logical plan with these guys.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, you kind of move to the family, don't you? Like the flat, the Barry's family, and they're having like dinner and stuff like that. And there's like the dad is like always sort of praising Jay, the other son, isn't he? Like, and there's a bit of brotherly rivalry there. But there's an excellent exposition dump that the dad says to put you up to speed of what Jay does. And I'll play that.
I don't play it.
I just wish for a little bit of my brother's brains. Hey, leave me out of this. You're not doing so bad on your own, Jay.
Hell, 42 years old, commander of the motorcycle division, I think you're doing pretty damn well for yourself. Not to mention taking down that Conway and his hijacking crew.
Well, actually, Dad, that was burying the crime lab boys who put us on the Conway.
Yeah, I mean, sure, lab boys are important, but real cops, work the street, facing the scum of the earth, with nothing to back you up but a gun,
a badge, and a prayer. Okay, Dad.
Okay, who wants coffee?
So it's quite innocent in that scene, but it becomes like later on the fact that he kind of just wants to prove himself to his dad, doesn't he? He's a scientist. He's not a hero. He's like his brother kind of thing, and that's a theme that goes throughout the movie.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I mean, out of all the characters I did not like, I didn't like the dad. And in that little paragraph alone, you know exactly his character.
Yeah,
dad character like that. He loves the one who's going out there and solving crimes. He respects Barry, but he doesn't like him as much as the guy who's on the streets with a gun taking down the crimes while he's in the lab. Even the brother said, "Hey, if it wasn't for Barry's lab work, we wouldn't have found him." So you've got to give him some props.
Yeah, I mean the brother obviously gives like Barry like loads of respect and stuff, but yeah, the dad. I think it's because the dad was probably a street cop as well. I think he wasn't he? So Jay is basically like a younger version of him, isn't he? And yet Barry's like the smart guy who's not like the street cop. But yeah, they should get his full respect.
It really kind of felt like, okay, boomer, step back, yeah? Like, you're getting a respect the new wave of science here, yeah? That's the thing that was missing. The girlfriend of Barry, even though she says a couple of things, we're not really entirely sure what she does, other than that she's an artiste that uses computers.
Well, I think she's just meant to be a professional artist, isn't she? Because she has her stuff in galleries and things like that, doesn't she? But she's just a generic like artist from the 90s, isn't she?
She even looks it. I mean, she's wearing even the blossom hat. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, she's got the blossom hat. She's got like the outfit. She's like, "Oh, I'm free spirit, man."
Is it me, or does she look like too young for him as well? I think Wesley Shipp just always looks like a very mature man. I think even back then, I think it's mainly because I think of him as Dawson's dad. But like
Barry Allen isn't supposed to be this old.
No,
I think. I mean, Barry Allen, or just from the Flash in general, a lot of the other Flashes were considered quite young. I don't know, maybe you're just a little old.
I like the way because he's the younger brother, they had to make the brother even older, didn't they? So he's like grey and stuff.
They look the same age.
Yeah.
They look the same age, but they had to make the older brother older by giving him grey hair. It's brilliant.
So the brother looks almost as old as the dad.
It's ridiculous. It's weird. So at this dinner, Barry gets a beeper. Beep, beep. He's like, "Oh, I gotta get to the lab." So he's about to go to the lab. But here's an interesting, weird conversation they were having, where Barry gives his brother a present, which was a track medal that he somehow just kept for 20 years. Just kept it.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain why he keeps it or whatever. Like, it doesn't explain it. It's just like, "Oh, I just kept it." It's like, "I thought I lost it." "No, I just kept it." And even he says, and you waited to like nearly a decade and a half to give this to me.
Yeah, it's pretty silly, but yeah, it's quite fun. The little cheesy moments like that are kind of like quite charming, though. It's weird.
Which is good, because at least I mean, for this viewing, it was actually quite nice. It was quite tolerable to watch this entire pilot, because the pilot really wasn't that bad.
No, I suppose we're kind of reviewing it because it didn't do well. So we sometimes do movies that were like misunderstood, or TV shows that are misunderstood and kind of like, and also it kind of counts if it's got a lot of cheesy kind of stuff. It kind of counts as well.
It is pretty cheesy. Like, for example, they get into the lab. So Barry goes to the lab and they meet Julio, who's his best buddy, right?
Oh, actually, before they get to, is this the bit where basically there's like a TV reporter trying to get a scoop, and like they interview him as he comes in, and I'll play the clip.
Linda Park, WCCN News. What can you tell us about this assault on the arsenal and the watchman's murder?
Well, I just got here. And
Is it true the riders have taken automatic weapons and explosives?
Well, I don't know, but...
Is there another officer we can speak with?
Well, here comes one now.
What department are you?
No. Crime lab. Want to film us more plastered tire tracks?
Cut it. Let's see if we
They're really hammering in.
Find us a real newscaster while you're at it. I swear she was on the shopping channel selling earrings last week.
So she says, let's find a real detective. So again, that's the whole like thing where, he's got his dad saying to him that he's not a real detective in a way, and then like she's saying it as well. So lots of things are coming at him with like, yeah, you're not a real cop.
Oh, because you like science. Because you're a nerd. You're not a real cop if you're a nerd.
And in most situations, he kind of brushes it off like it's jokey, but you can tell it's kind of got to him because it becomes the Flash, for God's sake.
Well, actually, before we get into the lab, let's talk about the gang itself. So we got Pike, who, let's describe how Pike looks like for a minute.
He kind of looks a bit like Snake Plissken.
I instantly got Snake Plissken without the eye patch.
Yeah.
But he's got this weird sort of scarring around his face that looks like a face tattoo.
Yeah.
Even though it isn't. And it turns out that Pike was the former police officer. It was a former police officer for Central City Police, but was the former partner of Jay.
Yeah.
Which makes it all like, ooh. And it's just basically, is him running a cult, basically, trying to say, we're taking down society, man. It's all a bunch of air whiffle waffle, basically.
Yeah, it's just one of those a bit of cliche things, like where like he's sort of like all the outcasts he's kind of like given a home to, and he's kind of like, yeah, I'll provide for you now, and that kind of thing, isn't it? Like a typical cult situation, isn't it? Yeah, like you say.
But then, wasn't there one guy who's trying to say, like, look, it's like, yeah, babe, we're getting out of here, man. I don't want to be involved in this anymore. This is getting crazy, right? And I think he's going to try and say, like, he's going to try and escape with his girlfriend and go off, and I think he had money and just going to escape the cult, whatever it is. And then he gets caught.
Yeah.
And then, this is what I mean by this bit is incredibly violent. And do you have a clip for some of this bit when all this is happening?
Well, basically, I love this bit because he says that to the girlfriend, like you said, like, well, let's get out of here. So she wanders off, goes behind a curtain, and obviously whispers into Pike's ear, but you haven't seen Pike yet. And Pike comes out from the curtain, and this plays. That is a curtain flap and Pike entering the room. How grand.
He walked in the room.
And yeah, basically, he makes a spectacle of this guy, in front of everybody. And he has this really sort of like elaborate kind of speech where about, I'll just play it so you can hear it.
Play it.
In the days of Genghis Khan, a disloyal warrior was tied to a wild horse and then set free. His punishment was left to fate.
So basically, they just tie him to the motorcycle, don't they, and kind of like just drive off.
No, so this is what they do. This is the way they do, right? So they tie him up, they hog tie him onto the motorcycle, which is true. But they put a grenade in there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then they let the motorcycle go down the tunnel, and then explodes.
Yeah.
And we don't see the death, but that to me is going. When you say like, oh, this is not really that violent, isn't it? It's like, that's pretty violent.
It's funny, isn't it, how they could get away with certain violence on like TV and movies and stuff. Because you could have explosions and stuff. Like people could die like horribly from explosions, but as long as you didn't see like blood and like sort of limbs being blown off or whatever, then it's fine. It's weird, isn't it? It's what you don't see is fine.
But yeah, so that happened, and that's just basically to prove that Pike is a mean son of a bitch, basically.
But the thing is, though, I love the fact that he goes like, his punishment was left to fate. It's not really fate, though, is it? He's put in that situation.
You shoved him in there, and the grenade blew up because you put a grenade in there. And then you was bound to die. Like, there was no way. It's like saying, oh, maybe you'll just drive off into the sunset. That ain't how it works, mate.
It's pretty good.
So
So we kind of skipped ahead a little bit because there's the Barry's accident, isn't there, in the lab that before that point.
which we're going to talk about now. Because they're in the lab. He's doing overtime stuff and everything else. Julio, they say like, Julio, you can go. I'll do the rest of this on my own. Just as it goes out, the accident happens. Now, the accident is done pretty cheesily, and I'll be honest, quite quickly and quite randomly.
I've got a clip. It's mostly just sound because obviously it's a visual thing. But let's see if we can like get an idea from the sound.
Go for it.
So it's like ridiculously theatrical music, and you get this massive lightning bolt that just like strikes chemicals, doesn't it, in the lab? And you can hear then like there's a big explosion. It blows Barry back, and like with the explosion, and all the chemicals just like engulf him, don't they? Kind of thing.
Yeah. The thing is, okay, look, we know that it's a thunderstorm because we hear it for a while, right? We hear the thunderstorm and so on, but the lightning happens really quickly and really randomly, right? Because it seems to the lightning seems to magically go through the window and strike there. I'm like, wow, that is threading the needle, mate.
Yeah, it is a bit. The accident is handled a bit like a cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit too random. But this then leads to the whole this leads to the whole of him gaining the superpowers, and when he gets the superpowers, he's first of all he's in the hospital saying, "Look, I'm absolutely fine. I look great. I'm not even a burn mark," which is ridiculous, right? And people say, "No, you should stay here for a few days to do some tests." Like, I don't need tests. Basically, he's getting really cocky. Like, I don't need tests. I'm fine. I'm gonna continue on with my work, right?
Yeah.
Very career focused there. But obviously, he gets back into work, and he starts to realize that certain things are not really working the way they're supposed to. And this is where he's revealing he has his powers. And each time he does that, it's quite funny how he discovers his powers, really.
Yeah, there's this certain scene where he's at the park. This is quite early on, and he's basically playing like with his dog, and he's playing like throwing the ball around. And there's a bit where the dog runs off, and he's like saying that's not our ball. And basically, it's like I'll play it now.
Earl, that's not our ball. That's not ours. Earl, that's not ours.
And you can hear him now just racing ahead after this ball.
Yeah, so basically, so he rushes. He's got the dog on a leash as well. I think. What we think
listen to the music. It's got the wah 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 kind of comedy caper music. Because he ends up in a bush, doesn't he? Basically,
yeah.
He ends up going stupidly fast, like after this ball. I'm trying to remember, like, does the dog just get dragged along that fast?
No, because he first of all the dog is chasing the ball. The dog is running right with it, right? Then he tries to catch up with the speed.
Oh, and he overtakes the dog,
he overtakes the dog.
Yeah,
dropping the leash, runs through a bush and misses the ball. Now, at this point, the dog is now terrified of him because it's like, oh my God, what the hell is that? Which happens quite often. There's a clip later on where when he says, okay, I'm gonna give you for a walk. The dog just gets up, walks into the closet, and closes the door.
Yeah.
Because it says, no, I'm not joining you. I know how walkies are like. Hell no, am I doing that?
That's one of those particular things that's like definitely of the era where, an animal is a bit too smart. It's like, I don't think a regular dog would be able to like do that.
there's another bit later on where he realizes he's got a flat tire on his car, which is random, but okay. So he decides to try and run for the bus. But he gains too much speed and he ends up into the ocean.
Yeah, so I've got a clip of that. I love that bit when he just goes, you just start, I'll just run there, it'll be fine. And then you just keep going. There's a lot of like sort of speeded up clips of him going faster and faster, and it's like this.
Barry, are you okay?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Crystal Beach.
Crystal Beach. Barry, I know you don't take my art very seriously, but I thought you'd at least show up.
I tried. This will sound crazy, but I had a flat tire, so I ran for a bus, and suddenly, here it was.
You're right, it does sound crazy.
Yeah.
Iris, we'll talk about it, all right? Can you just come down here and pick me up?
It's weird because in my memory of that scene from a kid, I thought he ended up in like, I pictured it in my mind as him ending up in Miami Beach, but it's just a beach that's downtown. I thought he went like sort of cross country or something.
Oh, that would have been hilarious if so like, hey, I'm in Florida now. It's like, how the hell did you get that? Don't ask. But this is the thing. This is when I was starting to see the visual effects of the show. What do you think about the visual effects of the show as a whole? Because I think there's some bits which are really good and some bits which have dated terribly. So what do you think?
Yeah, I overall, it didn't sort of, sometimes like effects of like the 80s and 90s, they kind of like take you out of the moment a little bit, but there's nothing really bad enough for it to do that for me, in my opinion. And I, for example, I like the stuff, like the scene we were just talking about, where he goes to Crystal Beach. I liked the sort of sped up running, like where he's basically, there's a lot of first person view, but also it's flipped as well. So you can see his face going forwards and everything's going fast around him. I really like that kind of stuff. That's kind of cool.
That was cool, but I found that one be a little hokey because his arms are like blurs, right? There's like nothing. And I'm thinking like, it's looking a bit hokey. I would have loved if he's just running normally. Like he feels like he's running like normal, but he is super speeding it. I just like, how fast am I? I thought he would have done that one. When he's finally also in the suit and doing the running parts, there's some bits which I really like. I love the blur that he's left behind, which is great. I love the little blur. But then, and there's some bits which are cool, which we'll talk about later on, where there's some stop motion kind of feeling to it. But then there are some moments where you think like, if this guy is supposed to be running at, let's say, 300 or 400 kilometers an hour, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he's ran that fast from there to there because you see his full motion, which that kind of puts me off a slight bit. It's like, I ain't that fast. It doesn't look fast to
me. The next sort of bit is where he's about to sort of meet Dr. McGee, isn't it? And he gets a phone call from her because she's obviously interested in studying him and stuff like that. So there's a phone call in in his apartment.
Why don't we talk in the morning? Meet me at 50 Garrick Avenue.
Okay, thanks, Dr. McGee. Bye.
Goodbye.
And I love the bit with the dog in this scene.
Oh, thank you, Earl. Would you like an after-dinner mint?
Because basically the dog, while he's on this phone call, there's lots of cute moments with the dog. And while he's on the phone, the dog is just literally eating all of his dinner. And he's just like, do you want a after dinner mint? And it's kind of.
But here's the thing. No, but here's the thing as well. Another thing we've realized is because he is running so goddamn fast, he is hungry constantly.
Yeah.
And this leads to, and this is also a running joke in the TV series as well, where he's just constantly hungry because he's burning off so many calories from all this running. Like, there's a bit later on where he meets McGee, and then he goes to like a pizzeria.
Yeah.
You can see how he eats 6 pizzas whole, right? 6 large pizzas, and he still looks like he's hungry. So when the waiter goes up to him, looking like really impressed, it's like, "Do you want another?" And it's like, and he's looking, he's thinking like, "Ooh, maybe," but then he's looking at her, going, "Nah, it's fine."
Yeah.
It's got that like it's still following that kind of level of comedy, like 90s cheesy comedy, which I think honestly it works fine for this because it's quite a lighthearted, in a weird way, for a show that's trying to be dark and brooding. It's got quite a bit of lightheartedness to it.
Yeah, and when so the next bit, obviously he meets Dr. McGee, and there's a very sort of bit of dialogue that's very of the time because I'll play it.
Barry Allen. I'm Tina McGee.
Hi.
Something wrong?
No. You're not what I expected.
Then we're even.
So is that just because she's a woman? He says that.
No, I feel like it's because
he kind of looks her up and down, and like I think he was expecting her to be kind of something else, but well, I don't know. He can't because he's spoken to them on the phones beforehand, so he knows he knows. But I don't know why. Is it because it's a weird piece of it's a weird piece of dialogue, and when I first I assumed it was the whole woman thing, but then it's not that, but it's just a bit.
It's a frumpy outfit. She looks really like frumpy. Like she doesn't look like maybe she just doesn't look like a scientist, which is true because she's got like weirdly like, again, unaggressive clothing for an aggressive career woman. So maybe that's the case. Maybe she looks a bit frumpy.
Yeah, and pretty much like from the off, they get onto like sort of testing his speed and stuff, don't they? And he's on a running machine, and there's a bit like this.
347 miles an hour?
That was before the equipment crashed. You may not have hit your top speed.
What's happening to me?
So yeah, he's on a running machine, and it just literally kind of like it starts smoking, doesn't it? Yeah,
it breaks it almost instantaneously at how fast he's going. So he's going through all the tests and everything else, and it's all science psychobabble, but basically it's all a bunch of stuff just to explain to the audience realistically, I think in a very concise, nice concise way of what the Flash is. The idea is that the Flash is sort of at the moment his cells are dying and reproducing really quickly. He's constantly rebuilding his body. Because of all that, he has the ability to get new muscle, new everything, so he can go stupid fast without any problem because he can burn it all off basically, which is brilliant. And they're trying to explain that.
Yeah, and I like the fact in the next scene I've got a clip from that where he has the pizzas, but they also have that conversation, and I like the fact that he doesn't believe that he's becoming like this powerful thing, even though he can see what's happening to him, and she sort of cottons on to what's happening to him, and he still doesn't believe it, and it's funny.
Look, if you have anywhere near the power I suspect you do, the government will classify you as a security risk. They're trying to take your cells apart, trying to make 100 of them.
I think you've been reading too many comic books.
I'm being serious, Barry. I've seen it happen.
So he doesn't cotton on, does he, to begin with, that he is actually quite sort of he's going to be a powerful thing, and the government will want to kind of get involved, but he doesn't see that, and I don't know why he wouldn't, because he's like been running at 400 miles an hour.
It's not just that; it's the fact that you have ran from your home to the beach in seconds. Yeah. By that point, you would clearly say, like, okay, there's something here. McGee gives him an outfit. It's sort of like this red, this red pull-up kind of thing, right? Which apparently says, like, well, you have to stop running, because if you're running at super speed, all your clothes are breaking, which is true, because before all the outfit, all his clothes are breaking, which is hilarious. So they test this out on a racetrack.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite a good, but do you have a clip from anything from the racetrack?
I do, yeah. It's like Back to the Future at the moment.
I know, right?
Barry, can you hear me?
Yeah. What's my velocity?
Holding at 480. Can you go any faster?
Can you go 88 miles per hour, Barry? A bit faster than that, I think.
Yeah.
30, 570, 20. Be careful, Barry, you're about to cause a sonic boom.
Sonic boom!
Barry?
Yeah, he's just like, you go so fast, you're causing a sonic boom.
Sorry, my ears were ringing. I'm starting to like this.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm starting to like this, he says at the end of that clip. Yeah, it's
great stuff.
It's good. Like, I love it when he starts to really embrace the powers.
He's embracing it, and he even does something quite cheeky, which is why I'm convinced. Which is why later on you can kind of suss out that he's going to be the new Tina is going to be the new love interest, because it's like saying, oh, and Tina goes, oh, I wish I could see how it's like. It says, why not? And literally just grabs her from her seat and takes her for like a spin literally like around the track at that speed, and you can see how she's flustered, like whoa, and he's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. But a little bit before that, with the speed test on the track, we go back to the biker, get Pike and the biker gang, and basically Jay is on TV. And he realizes who it is, doesn't he? Pike does, and he's like, he's got a vendetta then, hasn't he? Like, but he basically, Jay is like saying how much he sort of hates the gang and stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you a statement. We're gonna bury these guys, and you can quote me on that.
Pike.
Quiet. This is the man who betrayed me.
Love his voice.
The man who gave me my scars.
You know, I got these scars.
We've crushed his...
That guy.
We've humiliated his beloved police force.
Yeah!
Now it's time.
You know, rallying the troops.
So he wants Jay now, doesn't he? He's kind of saying he's going to wreck the whole police, but he kind of wants his revenge against Jay.
He just wants to get Jay this time, right? Because Jay was the one who put him in that thing. Because Pike was already, by the sound of things, a corrupt police officer. And something's happened with that, and Jay was responsible for giving him the mess and the scars and the accident and stuff like that. So I can't remember, they don't really go into a lot of detail as to what happened between those two.
No, but it moves on pretty quickly to the point where he's going to get his revenge. Like, a couple of scenes later, you get this.
Remember me.
He says at the end, it sounds like he's saying Dick, but he's actually saying Nick or something. I think he's called Pike, but that's his kind of like biker name, isn't it, or something?
Yes.
I think he was Nick or something when he was the cop.
Unless his name is Nick Pike, which sounds horrible. Nick Pike.
But basically, that's the bit where he's basically he's killed Jay, but he's kind of off screen, isn't it? You don't really see it.
Then Jay does die, and this is the whole thing. When Barry overhears this through like radio speak. Yeah. So like, I think, was it radio? It was radio, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he goes over and says, like, oh God, I have to catch him. It's like, no, I can do this now. And he just bolts, but he is just a little too late. Just a little too late to miss that.
And when he finds Jay, this is probably my favourite kind of bit from from the movie.
Jay!
I love it.
That's like, it's basically what's known as like the movie No, isn't it? But it's not a no, it's an and it's like, it's basically got like the cliche kind of like pan up. Like he kind of goes and he gets smaller and smaller, but he's got his arms kind of up to the sky. It's a really good like moment though. I really like it. So pretty much like straight away after that point, he's now got the fire, hasn't he? In terms of like, I want to do something about this, and he goes straight to like McGee pretty much, and he's on about the suit, isn't he?
Yeah. The red suit. I need more of it.
Why?
I want you to build a hood to cover my face so no one will know who I am, and gloves so I won't leave fingerprints. Can you do that?
Well, yes, I suppose so, but
Pike murdered Jay. I'm gonna bring him in.
Well, that's crazy. You're barely able to control your...
Power? That's what you called it.
Yes, and a very unstable one. You came here asking to get rid of it.
I've changed my mind.
He has pretty much instantly, just from the brother's death, hasn't he? He's like really got that fire now to be the Flash.
Yeah, and this is when actually I feel like this is where the darker, moodier things finally kicking in. Though, like not entirely like the Batman, like 1989 Batman, but now there's a vendetta. Now there's a reason behind all this. Yeah, so you can see this character is no longer like he's barely even light-hearted at all. He's now like, I'm the Flash. I'm brooding. Grr. I got my brother to avenge. Grr. No one's believing me because I'm a scientist. Grr. Right.
Yeah.
Which means at one point he actually, because of his lab research, he was able to find the den of Pike. So the hideouts of Pike. So there's a whole sequence there which I actually find quite funny, where he goes and bolts through and goes into it, and he's just messing around with the two bikers that are in there.
Yeah.
Which have you got a clip of that one, by the way, the one with the boombox?
Yeah. Basically, I've got this.
Yeah.
I realize how an unhappy childhood probably led you to all this, but that's really no excuse.
And you hear, so that's a classic kind of comic book kind of line. But what I love is, you remember how he punches people in this movie? He does a really dorky punch, doesn't he?
It's kind of like a weird turn.
It's not. He doesn't put his whole body into it, and it's kind of almost like a jab. He kind of like goes, "Bah!" like that.
It feels weird looking at how the Flash punches.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dorky punch, and I don't know whether it's been directed that way, but it looks kind of odd when he punches people.
I get the weird feeling there might be slightly the restrictions of the suit, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, because the suit does look quite snug. Like I bet you he was far more comfortable than he ever was in he definitely looks more comfortable than Captain America in that goddamn suit.
Yeah.
Or even Batman, to be fair, because Batman didn't look he was too comfortable in that.
I love there's a epic sort of full suit reveal moment though, and the music is really grand. I've got a clip of that. I can't remember if it's just music though, but it's like basically, it's like the opening theme kind of bit.
Yeah.
So you hear how grand that music is. Basically, the Flash speeds into frame, and it pans up the entire body from the feet, and you see that. And the lighting is really moody as well. So you've got like just the highlight of the red on one side, and it's like the sort of street, like in the streets, and that is like the whole Batman thing they're going for, isn't it? Like the moody kind of vibe, and even kind of like. The villains kind of like the bikers, they're kind of like on the street and stuff, they kind of like fear him as this like sort of he's called like the Red Ghost and stuff like that, isn't he? And
it's like, it's the Red Demon, the Speed Demon, it's the Red Ghost. So he's suddenly got all the nicknames, which is kind of cool. He's establishing already his stuff, right? But now this thing, he's now kind of doing this without behind McGee's back, because McGee said, look, if you are going to do this, right, I need sensors on you so I can keep a track on you. And it's like, oh, you're doing this for the science. No, you're doing it for revenge, that's fine. But I need to be sure that you are safe out there, because you're still having problems. Like you're having seizures and being incredibly dehydrated and all this stuff happening. So I need to be sure you're safe if you're going to do this bollocks. And, she's standing her ground like, God damn it. And he's like, fine.
Yeah.
It's like, fine, I'll do the sensor thing. Which is funny because she's now, the thing is, McGee didn't tell Barry that she is following him around in a truck.
Yeah. Well, it's like around this sort of time as well, because there's some nice little side characters in this. Remember the comedy kind of cops?
Yeah,
because he basically ends up like getting into a bit of bother, doesn't he? Like when he's first going out in the suit, and he ends up randomly like sort of being sort of quite drained all the way down, and like these cops like find him, don't they? And they give him a lift home because he hasn't got any. His powers are fully drained by that point. He hasn't that's when he's like not under the sort of supervision of McGee, isn't it? That particular point.
Yeah, because he removes the suit.
Yeah,
because he got stabbed in the leg, and he removes the suit.
Yeah,
because he's like, I can't run because I'm limping, and I'm so tired suddenly.
And the cops find him. I love these cops.
Look, I know those guys from the crime lab are whacked out, man, but did you check his red boots? I'm sorry.
Come on, Murph, will you give the poor guy a break? I mean, how would you act if you got hit by lightning?
Oh, I'd probably go out and buy red boots.
See, there's just little comedy bits in there that I kind of like. It kind of it feels quite like TV, but it also feels like it's got that like buddy cop kind of vibe that you get in. You got that kind of comedy you get in like buddy cop films, and there's a little bit of that and a little bit of funny sort of side characters, and I kind of like that kind of stuff.
There's another bit as well, which we forgot to mention as well. Another light-hearted moment is when the girlfriend is coming over for a visit, and he realizes that his house is a dump, so he tries to clean the house. But he does it so quickly that a cyclone happens in this house and just causes more mess.
Yeah, first of all, it looks like it's doing all right. He's kind of just going around sort of tidying up quickly. But then he tries to pick up the pace, doesn't he? And then he just like everything's just going everywhere. And he sort of like just gives up, doesn't he then? But you get like, there's that bit, you've got some sort of classical music playing over it, haven't you? It's like, or something like that.
Yeah, and then this then leads to him explaining to the girlfriend, at one moment in time looks like they're about to break up, and then later on in the show, in the episode, they meet up again, and they look like they're about to have that sexy scene that we were talking about. Well, let's see how that sexy scene went. I assume you have a clip for that.
Well, I've got a clip of the gag.
I can't believe it was over so quickly.
Disappointed?
Well, yeah. After all that anticipation, why bother?
$20 for a fight that's over in 2 rounds.
So he's talking about the boxing, the pay-per-view boxing, but it's like, obviously because he's the Flash and they're in bed together, you got this like gag that he's quick in bed as well, haven't you? But
although I would kind of love the fact that he may be, imagine having sex with the Flash. Like that is. Like, would that be fun, or would it be over really quickly, or would it be? I don't know. What would happen? Would you just be like, it's like you haven't realized it, but we've done it 7 times.
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's just like his speed is just from like running and stuff. So I don't think. I don't think that would be a fast thing. And he can control the speed, can't he? He can go fast when he wants to go fast.
I'm just having a funny thought that maybe what if he's like into it and he gets into it and then suddenly he gets so into it that he forgets and he just goes zoom, It could happen.
Accidentally impregnated about 5 times.
It's like, I'm sorry, it's been 5 times. Apparently you haven't realized it, but we've done this like 7 times now. It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a very good minute for me. He finally gets all the information ready to go and take down Pike. So he's at the ready. He's finally able to go and take down Pike. He finds that he's in the old warehouse. There's also a chemical factory. But he knows that they're trying to break into the prison, I believe it is, to try and take out all of the other members of the gang. And this is where we finally see the Flash in his full form, and I kind of like it, especially some of the cases where he's doing the way he does the fights is almost like stop motion, which I kind of like because he's going so fast you don't see the full movement. So he is purposely quite jittery when he's doing punches and kicks and throws around all the people. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
But do you remember that scene though where they've got the girlfriend of Pike in custody, and all of a sudden like Barry's gone into like dirty cop mode, but like bad cop mode, and he goes, can I interrogate her? And he goes in there, he's basically, they let him in. He's a scientist. They just let him in, and kind of it's obviously a personal thing as well. So it's kind of like he's got that agenda, but he goes like proper into bad cop mode in this scene.
The guys around the station think you're all on drugs, or crazy. But I know better. I know you really did see a demon. He was as red as blood, wasn't he? And fast, like a flash. So if you care about Pike, you'll tell us where he is. Because, Lila, if we don't find him, the Flash will. Now I know you really want to tell me. Where is he?
I can't tell you. I can't.
take off her clothes.
Jesus.
I know that bit got me like really like kind of like unsettled. Like take off the clothes.
Yeah,
like take it to the lab.
Yeah, but it's just the way he's a really aggressive when he says it. Take off your clothes. It's like this is a different side of Barry, isn't it?
This is the dark and moody one we were talking about. It's like saying now we're getting serious. We're getting like angry, you know. And this is where he ends up finding things are going face down Pike. What's interesting then is. The whole thing in the police station is actually quite funny because the police are finally there, like not the police station, the prison. And the police are all there, all gathered around trying to stop about. The bumbling cops accidentally see the Flash in full costume, but they don't believe it's real and all that kind of stuff.
I've got a clip of that.
Hey, Murph, I saw it. The thing, the red ghost.
Sure you did, fellows. And I'm Marie Antoinette.
No, I'm serious. He was standing right there.
What do I have to do? Check you for head wounds?
Hands up! Cover me!
So that's the same comedy cops we heard earlier, like the red boots and stuff.
Want to lose weight and keep eating?
Let's just kind of move on very quickly onto the sort of a final bit there because we're now finally we've got all these shenanigans, all the fight scenes, all the cool little bits at the end. Although there's not a lot of fight scene in it, but when there is, it's quite good. Then we get to the confrontation with Pike.
Yeah.
Finally.
Which is a really good confrontation. It's basically quite epic.
What are you? And where did you come from? I came from you, Pike. You made me. When you killed my brother. I killed a lot of men's brothers.
I love that. It's almost like, for me, it was a Tuesday. It's almost like that kind of...
Yes! It was that kind of level of ham. Right?
I love it. You made me. But yeah, the end, Pike steals that line with at the end. It's great.
Yeah, and then by the end of it, basically, Barry does a little run around, literally grabs a rope at one point, ties him up, and just gets him ready to for him to be arrested. Although you can see at those moments where he just wants to kill him, but he just kind of goes and says, "No, I'm just going to tie you up and get you ready to take it to the authorities," and that kind of thing. And it sort of then ends on that note, really, where he stops Pike and everything else is all good and dandy. And then it adds a confrontation with McGee.
But there's a bit, though, when he's fighting with Pike, there's a bit where he gets electrocuted, isn't it? And it looks like that would have killed him. Like, he goes into like a pylon or something.
Yeah, he does, because he gets up. Doesn't he just get like uppercutted? Like up.
Well, no,
doesn't
he?
Into the ceiling.
He goes round him in a tornado, and it sort of elevates him into some pylons, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah. See, there's a tornado. I'm seeing him like he's doing a couple of punches here and there. The Flash goes around him so quickly. He does the silo. He does like the cyclone tornado thing. He gets launched up into the ceiling, gets electrocuted, dropped down, and then ties him up and says, "It's like, he's fine," and just leaves by that point. And then by that point he's done with Pike. He's feeling more rewarded and better about himself. And then and at the end, the show ends. The show ends in two ways. But the first bit, the show ends first of all with him talking to McGee, who's finally like caught up with him because he's been being very sneaky and doing things behind his back. Yeah, etc. etc. Do you have any clip from that last little confrontation?
No, not the bit with McGee. I've got a little bit where he's talking to the little boy.
Well, that's it. That's how it ends. So it ends then afterwards going with the family, right?
Yeah.
He's in with the family. And it all seems this is the new family now. The establishment, this is the new family now. So Julio's involved. Looks like the girlfriend's still around. I'm not sure if McGee was in the house. I don't think she was. But,
no, because you got you got the scene with him and McGee where it basically just setting up for the series. So she's going to be helping him in the series kind of thing. But then, he basically talks. The last sort of shot, the closing sort of like scene of the movie is him talking to the son, Jay's son, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sean, I want you to know something. Anytime you need me, I'll be there for you. I couldn't run like your dad, but I'll be there in a flash.
So it's kind of a sweet moment. He plays sort of dad type roles really well. Obviously in Dawson's Creek, he's got like Dawson's dad. But whenever he's kind of like sort of in those scenes, like there he's talking to the little boy, then he's kind of really sort of genuine. Like he's good at that kind of role.
And it's actually really sweet because it ends up, he goes over and then says afterwards, like, even though I'm not as fast as your dad, I'll still be there in a flash. And like, that is actually really, really sweet and really kind of nice, and a nice way to end that. And then that's the end of the pilot episode. I'm going to be honest. I had a good time watching this, but I will say full up and up front that this isn't too bad. To the point that I'm actually once realizing that even, other than sort of the 90s cheese and stuff, this was all right. And it reminded me again, like, actually, the Flash TV series was quite an underrated show and kind of needs a second look. It was quite fun to do that. So I think, you know what, let's just go right into the Trashometer, shall we?
Okay.
So this is the Trashometer. For people who never heard us if this is the first time you listen to us, thank you very much for listening. What we do in order to rate the movies we watch, we do something called the Trashometer. We have 5 different settings, and we basically judge on how trashy or how enjoyably trashy the film, or in this case, the TV pilot, was. We start off at the very bottom, which is tame. Tame means that there wasn't really anything trashy about it, or it was actually generally just quite boring. You then have a tiny bit trashy, where it's got a little few elements of fun and quirkiness, but it's not pure trash fun yet. Then in the middle, you've got trash. It's the sweet spot, the golden goose. It's the ultimate thing that you want to be if you want to be a good trashy movie. Too trashy is when it's starting to start pushing our buttons and our boundaries. We're still having a good time, but we are having moments where we're uncomfortable or angry or whatever. And then there's torture. Torture is the worst. It is either too bad to be enjoyed, it's gone over the threshold, there's too much that angers us to really enjoy watching that movie again. So, with that in mind then, Ed, what do you think of the Flash pilot episode? Where does it fall on the Trashometer?
Well, I think this was one that I picked, wasn't it, this movie? Basically, and it was like, I was expecting it to be more trashy than it was, and more kind of like cheesy. It's got a lot of cheese, like we've spoke about, but it hasn't got enough for it to be high on the Trashometer. So it's actually, I would even put it as tame. I would put it at the lowest rating, because it's not boring. But in terms of like trashiness, there isn't a lot of trashiness in it, so it's kind of got to be tame. I suppose I could be pushed to maybe go tiny bit, but like I don't think there is even tiny bits of trash.
No, I actually am going to say this. This is the tame, and this is not in this case, because we've had a few other tame movies on the list. We had Doom on Tame, for example, but that was because we were bored. Like, we were bored. It was Doom and it was boring. We also, the other one was The Lift. We did the Dutch movie The Lift, but that's the reason, is because even though there were some really interesting moments, we realized the only reason why we enjoyed it is because the circumstances we watched it, not the movie itself. Here, the reason why we're putting on Tame, I think, is not because it's bad. I argue it's good. Like, it's enjoyable. It's got the 90s cheese in it, and it's got the thing like that, but it's not enjoyable because of its trashy nature. It's enjoyable because it's actually quite a decent movie. It is quite a decent show. So, yeah, do we agree it's just tame?
Yeah, it's tame, but it is good because we haven't had many tames, and it's good to kind of mix it up a little bit. And yeah, you know, it's got those. I think it's because we have to have it as tame, is because even the bits that would be considered cheesy just are good. They kind of like just add a good element to it. So they're not negative.
And this is the thing: if this was properly funded as a movie, let's say we gave it an extra $20 million, right? And you edited and you made things a little bit more there and made it longer and that kind of thing. I could have totally seen this as a movie as a kid, like properly in the cinema, and I would have enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah,
so I feel like this was definitely a missed opportunity, a lost cause. And the reason why it's going on the Tame is because it's not bad. It's good. It's really good. And I recommend it to people, actually. Watch the series of The Flash. So we'll put it on the Tame. All right, there we go. So, thank you very much for joining us on our second little adventure into the summer of superhero schlock. We've got a few more down the pipe works. We've got about 2 or 3 more we possibly have. We've got at least a few 2 or 3 more we're thinking of doing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you guys very much for watching. If you like what you see and want to see more trash like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We also got the Trash Tapes audio podcast, which is available on Spotify, iTunes, and all other platforms. So, until next time, keep an eye on your trash. There might be some treasure in there. See you guys later.